Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday 1-hour edition of Talkback. It's Friday, November 15th. The Talkback this morning is brought to you by Harrington Surgical Supply, where you can feel confident in Harrington Surgical Supply's discreet and knowledgeable guidance on a multitude of products and, of course, all your medical supplies. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. If you need some gutter repair done, do it now before the weather arrives, and make sure that your house is protected. So you don't have to deal with your gutters. Call 406-240-2669, protecting the foundation of your future. Y West Storage has a storage unit for you out at the Wyoming Two Smokes Way. Find out more, 406-510-0590, because they're making room for you. And by Phillips Janitorial. If you need your home and or your business clean, they do it all. No job too big or small for them. Phillips Janitorial, 406-260-6617. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Christian here. That is Mr. Nick Christensen. Mr. Nick, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Happy Friday, everybody. And we have our 1-hour edition of Talkback underway. And we are privileged to talk with us right now with Mac Bloom, the Assistant Missoula County Attorney and Chief Deputy, I should say. And Mac, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Nick. Happy Friday to you guys and to the listeners. It's a rainy one out there, but yeah, it's good. Glad that it's Friday.
Tell us what your agency's been up to this week, sir.
Well, Peter, we actually had a really busy week this week. It was in our top 6 busiest weeks of the year. We charged 9 violent persons crimes. 5 of those were family violence, strangulation crimes, and 4 of those were non-family violence or robbery crimes. We charged 3 endangerment crimes, 3 property crimes, and 7 drug crimes for a total of 22. The highest we've had this year is 29, but when we start getting over 21-ish, 22 range, we're getting up there a little ways. So we've been busy charging. We've had a couple of attorneys in trial the last couple of weeks. We've got 2 more attorneys in trial today, and then we've got a slew of trials coming up over the next couple of weeks. So we're staying busy.
Well, I will ask you what it's like for your staff when you have such a busy week. Obviously, you only have so many people, and of course, you kind of have to pile on and make sure everybody gets the job done.
That's right, Peter. We've got a really great office that helps out and pitches in when there's, say, we get to work one morning and there's 8 new cases that need to be charged. Our attorneys are really willing to jump in and volunteer and help the designated charging attorney out. So it's kind of a team effort. We work together and we get the job done. We're on strict timelines, as you know, about when our cases have to be filed. So we couldn't do it without the group working together.
But now, Mac, is it something special about this time of year as we head toward the holiday season, or that for some reason crime seems to increase, or is it just whatever happens?
You know, I don't know, Peter, exactly. I do feel like just anecdotally we do get more crimes when the weather gets bad. And I think what it is more people are inside together, and that leads to more conflict. It's just my guess. That's not scientific or anything, but it does seem to play out that way when it's nice and the weather's good. People are outside, spread out, having fun. It doesn't seem like we have quite as much problems. Well,
it's always a pleasure talking with you, sir. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you go, sir?
Go Grizz.
You beat us to it. Thanks so much, Mac. You have a great day.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, thank you. All right. Shall we take our break right now, Nick? We'll take our break, and we are privileged, ladies and gentlemen, to have with us for this next hour Austin Knudsen, the Attorney General of the state of Montana. He's going to be joining us, and he has lots and lots of things to talk about that are going on in his office, especially congratulations on his reelection. So we're going to come right back with Talk Back with Austin Knudsen when we return right after this. Hey, we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Of course, we also have the KGVO app if you can't get to a phone and you would like to message us. We'll be happy to pass that along. And we are thrilled once again to honored to have Attorney General Austin Knudsen back with us again on the phone. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, Missoula.
And allow us to congratulate you on your reelection. I know it wasn't much of a contest, but I am really happy to have you back and for another 4 years of communicating with our audience. And we really appreciate your accessibility here.
No, I'm glad to do it. I told you guys before, I really enjoy doing this and taking people's calls, good or bad. But yeah, we had a good night, election night. It was a good night for Montana. It was a good night for America.
You bet. All right, now there are lots of things I know you wanted to talk about, and one of them occurred right here in Missoula with the DCI and a human trafficking operation. So would you mind walking us through that, and especially the involvement with the Attorney General's office?
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is an issue that I've taken a special focus to in my administration, Peter. Before I took office, we really didn't have a human trafficking division at our state DCI. That's our State Division of Criminal Investigation. We've worked with the legislature, and we've really beefed that up. We now have 3 agents and a victim coordinator. They do really, really important work, but they do it all over the state. Montana has a real human trafficking problem. That's probably the single biggest hurdle that I have education-wise traveling around. People in Montana don't really seem to realize that this is happening here, and it is, and this is proof positive right here. So we worked in conjunction with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. You've got a fantastic sheriff there in Sheriff Peterson. I get along with him really well, and he does a fantastic job. We partnered with his office, and we did a sting operation in Missoula, which led to the arrest of 8 people. They're all going to be charged with attempting to patronize a prostitute, which is now a felony under our human trafficking statute. And you might say, well, why is that? That's because no one chooses to be a prostitute, Peter. They're forced into it almost 100% of the time. This is a slave and master situation. This is modern-day slavery. So we're happy to work with our local partners on cases like this and clean up our towns, frankly.
Well, I do know. Oh, go ahead, please, Nick.
Yeah, Austin, I covered that and that operation, and I'm curious, I guess, how that process works from a law enforcement perspective, because each incident was different, but it seemed like they apprehended all the individuals in a 2-day span. But obviously, the sheriff's office, they had detectives posing, on these websites and, enticing these suspects to come. So do these operations happen quite often? Is this something daily that happens, or how is this big news because all of a sudden we got 8 people in 2 days? Or obviously that was planned, right?
Well, these operations take some time to put together. So the first answer is no. This isn't operations of this size are not common. Now, we have every day we have ongoing investigations and instances all over the state, and certainly sting operations happen often enough here, but not of this size. I mean, this was a big one. DCI identified there was an opportunity here, and obviously some demand and some traffic on some of these illicit websites trying to solicit human trafficking victims. I don't know all the particulars of the investigation yet, Nick, but I suspect what this was probably 1 or 2 websites where these Johns were enticed to come to this location and meet up with, I don't know if it was as a child, but regardless, this is not behavior that we're going to tolerate in this state. The legislature has made that crystal clear. This is not okay. This is not a slap on the wrist offense anymore. When you get online and try to solicit sex with a child, you're going to get slapped with the book. So that's what this was about.
Now, is there any problem with perhaps the individuals who have been charged claiming they were entrapped, saying that it was all a setup? I was lured in. I'm the victim here. Do you hear anything like that?
Oh, of course. We always hear it. I mean, just in my time as a prosecutor, that's absolutely what the defense is going to say. That's what a public defender or a defense attorney is going to say, 100%. These cases have been held up before, and what I mean by that, they've been upheld by our state Supreme Court. But look, we do have some legislation coming in the upcoming legislative session here, just about to start in about a month and a half, where we're going to clarify that these type of sting operations are tools that we can use as law enforcement. I mean, frankly, I don't care if you think you're a victim because you got online and tried to solicit sex with a child, and when you showed up, it wasn't the 12-year-old girl that you thought it was. it's the men in blue with the handcuffs. I mean, that just does not, that gives me no sympathy, and it doesn't give the Montana legislature any sympathy either.
All right. And of course, when it goes to the judicial system, these people receive a fair trial and then they are sentenced appropriately.
That is absolutely correct. I mean, my job is prosecution and law enforcement. They go through the judicial system. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. That's a major tenet of our justice system here in America and in Montana, of course.
I'll tell you what, we already have a caller on the line who wants to visit with you. Skip, good morning. You're on with Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you, Peter, and congratulations, Austin. I think the state of Montana certainly is going to be in better shape in the next 4 years, making all the choices they did, and what a wonderful team has been elected to be in Helena, I think. And, sir, I thought I'd ask, based on the way the election came out from starting from the top down, all of the lawsuits that you have going against the Biden administration, does that affect any of those? Are they going to go away? You know what I mean? Is it going to loosen up for you in that department so we can spend time on other things? And then, and I thought I'd ask, when it comes to the legislative session, very important. I think there's even some things in the governor's budget for your department. Is there something in particular that we as constituents need to be telling our elected representatives and senators? We need this for Austin Knudsen so that our state is better 4 years from now.
Well,
what do we need to be telling them?
I will say this, during the governor's speech, he did mention that they're going to be adding 2 extra pods to the Montana State Prison for an extra 500 inmates.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Skip.
Yeah, and that's that's a very important point. I mean, obviously, I'm not in charge of the Department of Corrections. That's under the governor. But I can tell you, and anyone who's paid attention, the Montana State Prison is full. Crime has been going up in Montana for about 15 years. Now, overall violent crime is going down over the last 3. That's a good thing. But the state prison is full. We had to ship a lot of our felons to private prisons out of state, and that costs the taxpayers money. So glad to see that. On Skip, a couple things there. So first of all, your first question about our federal lawsuits. The quick answer is I don't know yet. Very likely the Trump administration comes in, their Department of Justice changes, lawyers at various agencies change, and hopefully that we get some more, frankly, conservative heads over there, and we can get some of these lawsuits figured out. They back away from some of these really, really radical proposals that the Biden administration was pushing. But look, I think that's going to take President Trump some time. I don't think he's going to be able to get his arms around the neck of this beast in Washington, D.C. in his first month. I think it's going to take time. Now, I will say he has hit the ground running, and some of his appointments are just incredibly impressive. I think he's going to get them through the Senate, and he's going to get his people put in place as quickly as he can. But government does not move fast, so I think it's probably too soon to say on a lot of our lawsuits. But I'm certainly more optimistic with this president than I would be under President Harris.
All right, well,
that's the first part.
Oh, go ahead. So, second part, please go ahead.
Yeah, and I can be quick. I mean, you asked Skip what's a priority and what can you talk to legislators about. Trooper and law enforcement officer pay and retention is absolutely killing us in Montana. I don't care if it's in the Montana Highway Patrol under me or if it's the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. I mean, it doesn't matter. It is the cost of living in Montana has gone up dramatically. Taxes have gone up. Inflation is up. Groceries cost more. Gasoline costs more. Rent costs more. I can't pay Highway Patrol troopers enough to the point that they will stay in the Montana Highway Patrol. We have been hemorrhaging troopers due to the low pay. So I really appreciate the governor putting a proposal in his proposed budget to increase our pay and retention fund for troopers. That is absolutely key. It isn't the flashiest issue, but boy, when you have an accident on the highway or need to call a trooper and there's one around, it sure is nice. And we have to be able to keep our people on the roads and keep them paid. So that's a really big one for us.
You bet. And I do know, well, we're up against a break here, but I will say one of the things he mentioned was that it broke his heart to see nurses and firefighters and police officers and highway patrolmen, especially in towns like Bozeman and Missoula, having to find their homes 20, 30 miles out of town and then having to commute because they simply couldn't afford to live in the place where they work. So we're going to come right back. We have Jeff waiting on the line. Our guest on the phone right now, Montana's Attorney General Austin Knudsen. If you have a question or a comment, he's here till 10, so get in the queue and we'll be happy to hook you guys up. We'll be right back after this. We are back. This is Talk Back. Peter Christian here, Nick Christensen taking your phone calls this morning. And our guest on the phone, Attorney General Austin Knudsen, wanting to talk with you, and that's what we're going to do. We have Jeff waiting first. Jeff, good morning, sir. You're on Talk Back with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, A.G. Knudsen. Good morning, Montana. Two questions. My main one, and I meant to ask this earlier when you were on, but it slipped my mind until today. So there was a bit of a kerfuffle around the retirement of former Montana Highway Patrol Colonel Steve Lavin back in the springtime. As I understand it, there was a climate survey that was done, and it was based on that, and some changes were made. But I never saw anything in detail about what that whole situation involved. I did some research, but I couldn't come up with any stories. So I'm wondering if you can kind of give us a perspective on that. And then just as I was listening this morning, Missoula has 22 felonies they charged this past week. And I can remember when I moved back to Montana just in 2016, it was down in single digits, and now it just seems to be exploding. Is that the case all over the state, or is that unique to the population centers, or if you can give us an update on that?
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can give you some information on both of those things. Let's start with the crime rate. Since about 2013. All violent crime in Montana has been going up every year and pretty drastically. If you look at Montana Board of Crime Control stats, that's an agency that's administratively attached to the Department of Justice, but they're independently run, independently operated by a board. And they're basically a clearinghouse for crime information in Montana. But they keep those stats. You can go to their website and you can see this for yourself. But since at least 2013, violent crime especially, so the felonies like you're talking about, have been going up in Montana, and oftentimes double digits every year. I mean, it's a pretty dramatic increase when you put it on a graph. The good news is, in really the last 3 years, we've actually taken that down, and we're going in the right direction. When you look at that same graph, you'll see we're down to about levels that we were in 2018. Now, that's good. We're going in the right direction, but it's still much higher than historically it has been in Montana. So, I mean, overall, violent crime is going down, but it's still a lot higher than it was even 10 years ago. So, some good news, some bad news there. I think that has to do with better law enforcement. It's got to do with better laws on the books, frankly. I think the Montana legislature has done really, really good work with some mandatory minimum sentencing and some justice reform, some stuff like that. That's the first part of that. On the Highway Patrol survey, yes, there was a climate survey that was done inside the Highway Patrol. What happened was that survey got leaked, and it contained a significant amount of PII, what we call PII, personally identifiable information. And we had employees inside of the Department of Justice assert a privacy right, and that triggers certain legal actions that we have to take. So what we had done is we had said, okay, well, hang on to this thing. We can't release it yet without redacting, actual names of people. And there were some really inappropriate things that some of these anonymous comments from a handful of troopers had to say. I mean, there was some airing of some laundry and some hard feelings from a handful of people, and they just said some really, really crude, inappropriate stuff. Now, that's fine. I mean, you can see it. This document is available. This was never about suppressing the document. We want to do a better job with the Highway Patrol and with all agencies in the Department of Justice. I have to be careful because former Colonel Lavin has now sued me and the Department of Justice for wrongful termination. I'm not sure how that works because law is quite clear that that's an appointed position. That's someone who serves at the will of the Attorney General and can be relieved of duty. But that's not what happened here. I mean, he negotiated a retirement package for himself and chose to retire, and now he's come back and suing us. So I have to be a little careful about what I say just because it is in litigation and it's early on in that case. But I can tell you there are a number of things that led to Colonel Lavin's retirement, not simply this climate survey. But as with all things in an election year, a handful of media outlets grasped onto this one thing, and they tried to weaponize it and tried to beat me about the head and shoulders with it. And that's fine. I expect that from most of the Montana media, but a lot of it was just noise, frankly.
All right, with that, we're up against a break, and of course our guest on the phone is Attorney General Austin Knudsen, Candy, Susan, and looks like Sherry, all waiting in line to visit with you. We're going to come right back. Still more phone lines open, or you can use the KGVO app if you're running around and can't get to the phone. You have a question for Austin Knudsen, you can do that as well. We'll be back right after this. We are back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is the number, and our guest on the phone, Montana's Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Candy has been waiting throughout the break. Candy, good morning. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Austin, I'm very happy that you won. I perceive you to be a very honorable man. And I want to read a quote from another honorable man, Samuel Adams. And I think this is a solution for the government corruption. If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye are countrymen. And I think that's what President Trump is going to do, is he's going to bring these people to justice, and I'm very happy for that. Thank you.
Candy, thanks for the call. Austin, your response.
Well, thank you, Candy. I'm stunned and humbled and honored, and to be even compared to a statesman like Samuel Adams. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I don't know what else I can say to that. I'll take the compliment and I'll be humble and just say thank you and look forward to seeing you.
Sounds good. All right, let's get Susan up next. Susan, good morning. You are on Talkback with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, congratulations. I worked very, very hard to get you elected. And I'm going to tell you, I was extremely proud of the voters. They were very smart. Secondly, I am personally very disappointed in the legislature for never passing laws that are strict on drunk driving and drug driving. And I would like to see legislation that strengthens the punishment for drug and drug driving. I speak like this, Austin, because I had my neck broken. And when they went in to fix my neck, they gouged my vocal cord. And I had my neck broken because of a drunk driver. So I want everybody to know they should not drive drunk or be influenced by marijuana or any other drug. What can the legislature do? I know what they can do. They are rated very low on Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, which I helped to found. Can you put legislation before the legislature to make once only, and then you lose your license? And I'm going to get off the phone.
Okay, Susan, thanks for the call. Yeah, one and done is what she's asking there. Austin, what do you think?
Well, there's a couple things there, Susan. First of all, thank you for all your help. Good to hear from you, and I hope you're doing well. Susan's always a treat to have around the campaign cycle, and she's hard to miss because she's usually wearing some pretty great outfits.
Red, white, and blue, baby.
Oh, man, Trump flags and Trump hats. And yeah, Susan does a great job, hard worker. So, Susan, a couple things there. We for sure are seeing a huge increase in marijuana DUI. Since that voter initiative passed, and Montana's legalized recreational marijuana, we've seen a dramatic increase in marijuana DUI. Now, that's putting a strain on the crime lab because there's no roadside breath test for marijuana. I mean, we have to do a blood draw, we have to get a warrant, and we have to send that to the crime lab. That's extra time, extra money, just extra resources at the crime lab, and we're definitely dealing with that. One of the real problems we've got is we call it DUI per se. It's a lower level of penalty, but it's a statute that allows us to charge for a lower level of intoxication. You can say, well, you're not necessarily driving under the influence, but you're high enough that you're driving under the influence per se. It's an important statute for prosecutors. I mean, it's one that I used. Our marijuana per se level is among the highest in the nation. We allow you to have a lot of THC in your system before we say, okay, as a matter of law, you're impaired. That is a bill that we are actually bringing. That's a real problem that our highway patrol has run into. It's cost us a lot of prosecutions. It's led to a lot of people ingesting or otherwise taking marijuana and going out and driving, and it's dangerous. I mean, we're to the point that if we keep on this track, our marijuana DUIs are going to surpass the number of alcohol DUIs in Montana. I mean, that's how big of an increase we're seeing. So on that point, Susan, that bill is coming. We are sponsoring that. The Highway Patrol will be up there talking about that one. So that one for sure. On the one and done DUI alcohol, that is always a hot potato at the legislature. I mean, I can just tell you from my time in the legislature and probably for the last 40 years, DUI levels and mandatory sentencing and how many you get away with, all that stuff is always fought over because everyone's got a cousin somewhere that got a DUI and he shouldn't have, and that wasn't fair, and the process always devolves into these crazy what if scenarios that ends up costing us legislation. I think it's ridiculous that you can get up to 4 DUIs in Montana before it's a felony. I think that's patently unreasonable. I think maybe we could say, okay, once is a mistake and you can correct yourself and we can offer you a little bit of grace. But boy, by a second DUI, that's not another mistake. That's just stupidity and you've got a problem. But I mean, that is a perennial problem every biennium at the legislature. This session will be no different. We'll be there on those bills. We'll be keeping an eye on them for sure. I think there's already a couple of them that have been introduced early by now that the elections are over, by legislators. So we'll definitely be up there on those.
You bet. We're up against a break, and we have Sherry and Emmett both waiting to visit with you. Our guest on the phone, of course, the Honorable Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General for the state of Montana. And he's waiting for your phone calls if you have a question or comment. He's the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for the entire state of Montana. So if you have a question or a comment, please get in touch with us at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309, or you can use the KGVO app. Back after this. We are back. This is Talkback. Joining us this morning on the phone, Montana's Attorney General Austin Knudsen. And we want to get our callers on as quickly as we can. So Sherry's up next. Sherry, good morning. Thank you for holding. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good morning. Congratulations on getting reelected. I have a really serious question because I've talked to people who've had homeless people move on their property, and the law enforcement can't do anything about it.
Okay, is that the end of the question?
Well, no, my question is that actually, I mean, I'm in shock. I'm in Ravalli County that they can't do something about it.
Okay, so the quick answer is yes, they can. That used to be something they would hide behind, and this goes back to a court case that came out of the Ninth Circuit. So that's our federal circuit. Montana sits with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, along with California, and that's what led to this. So a number of years ago, you had a couple of communities that tried to crack down on homelessness, on transients, on, frankly, people defecating out in public spaces and in city parks. Reasonable local ordinances, right? We would hope our towns wouldn't tolerate that behavior in our public parks where our children are playing. Okay. Well, a couple of these towns got sued over that. And that went all the way to the Ninth Circuit. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, cities can't crack down on homelessness because that's a violation of the Eighth Amendment. And the Eighth Amendment is a prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. So basically, the Ninth Circuit said that towns cracking down on homelessness and people defecating in public was cruel and unusual punishment. Well, we knew that was nonsense. I mean, the Ninth Circuit just made that up. The Eighth Amendment is a prohibition on cruel and unusual capital punishments. You can't put people to death in weird ways. That's what the Eighth Amendment is about. So the Ninth Circuit just completely blew this. But what you had happen is you had towns like Missoula, like Bozeman, and it wasn't just them. I mean, but a lot of them hid behind that ruling and went, ugh, sorry, voters, there's nothing we can do about this. We can't crack down on these transients because, the Ninth Circuit says we can't. Well, guess what? My office appealed that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with me, and they overturned the Ninth Circuit, and that ruling is gone. So that's a long answer for you, Sherry, but the quick answer is yes, your local folks can. Whether that's your county commission, whether that's your city council, I don't know. This is not a state law. There's not a state criminal law in the books that you can call the sheriff and they can enforce. This is usually a local ordinance passed by a city council or by a county commission. But if those local elected officials are telling you, I didn't catch that.
I was thinking the police would handle it, so that's where I got confused.
But police have to have an underlying statute that they can enforce, right? And if there's not a crime on the books or a criminal statute for them, then technically that's correct. But within the bounds of a city or a county, if there's a county ordinance or a city ordinance, that local police agency can come and enforce that. It's usually a matter of that county commission or city council electing not to enforce that stuff, which gets us into politics real quickly. But that's the quick answer.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the call, ma'am. Let's get Emmett on the line now. Emmett, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call again. Again, congratulations on being reelected. I did vote for you. Thank you. Great congratulations. But I know I keep calling about robocalls, but I've taken your advice and ignored them. But they just keep calling me. They haven't slowed down. I only got tricked. I only answered one of them once because it was in 1-888 number. I thought it might be legitimate. And, of course, again, I screamed at them and threatened them, and they just laughed. They thought it was funny. They don't I think it's AI intelligence. My big question is, I've gone to Target, I've gone to Best Buy to see if I can attach anything to my landline phone, a device, to block the robocalls, because they do have them for iPhones. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't download RoboKiller. Do they make devices to just block these for landlines to electronically block these calls? Because I appreciate your advice, but it hasn't worked, and this is happening to a lot of other people, and it's just really weird that the advice hasn't worked, because I appreciate what you've been doing. There was another part of the question that I've forgotten what it was. There just should be devices out there, because the government hasn't been able to help, really.
Let's let him answer that. Thanks for the call, Emmett. Go ahead, Austin, please.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Emmett. Thanks for your support. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry this is still happening. But I mean, I have to admit to you, especially during campaign season, I mean, I probably myself am getting 6 or 7 phone calls every hour that are robo dialed campaign calls. The problem that we have with, I mean, and let's put the legitimate campaign calls aside. We're talking about illegitimate robocalls that are supposed to be illegal. A lot of these outfits are foreign outfits. They're not within the boundaries of the U.S. And every time we figure out a way to block them, they figure out another way to weasel back in. It's very, very frustrating, but it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. One thing you might try, Google offers a service where you can route your phone number through their service. And look, I by no means, I'm not an expert. I didn't even stay at the Holiday Inn Express last night. But I do know that Google or maybe Gmail, same thing, they offer a service you can route your phone number through them first, and they basically act as a screener. I've called a few people, and they have that service, and it's tough to get through. So you might look into that. I'm not aware of any just off-the-shelf product you can buy, and attach to your phone or download on your phone, and bam, it takes care of all this. These people are relentless. They're going to find ways to keep calling you. I hate to keep saying it to you. It happens to me. I get a couple of them every day too. If it's a number I don't recognize on my phone, I don't answer it, because 99 times out of 100, it's not legitimate. It's a robocall, and it's frustrating. It gets a little annoying, but I just hit ignore and move on about my day. I wish I had a better answer for you than that, but it's something that we're all dealing with, and every time we figure out a way to stop them, they figure out a way around us.
They're very clever. Hey, Austin, thanks for the call, Emmett. We're going to come right back. We have a 1-minute timeout. Larry and Ben are both waiting to visit with you. Give us a call, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Austin Knudsen will be with us for another 8 minutes or so. We'll be right back. We are back on Talk Back. Our guest on the phone is Attorney General Austin Knudsen, and I know before we get to the next caller, a very important person in your office is stepping down, and someone that you have enormous respect for.
Absolutely. I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to Brian Lockerbie. If you don't know Brian Lockerbie, he has served as the head of Montana's Division of Criminal Investigation, DCI, kind of our state version of the FBI. They're under my purview, but Brian has served in that position now for 12 years. He was brought on by Attorney General Fox. I was lucky enough to ask him to stay, and he agreed. But Brian has given a 43-year career to Montana law enforcement, and what a career it's been. I mean, I joke with him that Brian should be selling Dos Equis beer, because he's the most interesting man in the world. When you look at the things he's done, undercover narcotics and SWAT, and I mean, he's guarded the president of the United States, and now he's running, our narcotics division, our major crimes division, our human trafficking division. Brian is just such an amazing man, an amazing resource. He's announced he's retiring, and he's going to spend some time with his family, and I think they've been wanting him to retire for a while. He stayed on for 4 years with me to make sure the ship was going in the right direction, and I can't thank him enough, and I hope he's gonna enjoy his retirement. But he is stepping down, and I want to make sure that we honor him and thank him for his service.
You got it. Let's get right back to the phone. Say good morning to Larry. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Austin, and congratulations on your victory. The question I have is, what's the status of this ongoing, for the lack of a better word, I'll call it ethics complaint against you in the Supreme Court? And I understand there's been a recommendation to have your license suspended for 90 days. And how will that impact you and your agency going forward?
We kind of looked at that earlier in the hour, Larry.
Well, I just got on the phone.
Okay, all right. Well, Austin, if you want to address that again, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can be quick. So, Larry, thanks for the call. Yeah, so we had the kangaroo court trial, and to no one's surprise, several Democrat donors on that board recommended my suspension. The way that works is that's just a recommendation. That recommendation goes to the state Supreme Court, and that's where it's at right now. Now, I have 60 days to respond. We have not done that yet because that 60 days hasn't run, and there's lots of things to respond to, Larry. Frankly, the process here, just legal process. I'm not even going to get into the merits of the arguments, but the legal process was really, really screwed up here. There are a number of appealable issues just under the law. So there's lots of problems with this thing. But where we're at is it's a recommendation that's sitting with the Supreme Court. They have not taken action. I get to make an argument, and then the prosecutor, for lack of a better term, the special counsel, he's also gets an opportunity to make another argument to the court. So we don't have a timeline here. I think very likely this gets us into January or maybe even later. And then you couple that with the fact that we've got a new Chief Justice and some turnover at the court. Frankly, none of us really know what's going to happen here. This is uncharted territory for everybody, but that's where we sit.
All right, let's get one more call in before we have to say goodbye. Let's get Ben on the line. Ben, good morning. Quickly, what's your question for Austin Knudsen, sir?
Hi, good morning, Austin. Say, with the change in Washington, D.C. of administration and the work you've been doing in your office, do you see a change of course on the horizon, a pumping of the brakes of American Prairie Reserve and all that's going on in north central Montana?
Great question, Ben. I certainly hope so. And look, I think when you've got now Governor Doug Burgum from North Dakota right next door coming in as the Secretary of Interior, I think that can't help but be a good sign. We're really, really early on in that process, just within the administrative appeals judge. We haven't even gotten into federal district court with that APR case that we brought. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Yeah, I do think a lot of the stuff is going to get the brakes thrown on. Like you said, I think APR is going to find themselves dealing with a lot less friendly ally in Washington, D.C. and the Department of Interior. So fingers crossed, but I'm optimistic.
All right. Go ahead. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for the call. Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left, Austin. Got any closing comments, things that you're working on that you want our audience to know about?
Absolutely. So, guys, first of all, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure. It's always a lot of fun to get on and take calls and hit curveballs because you never know what folks are going to ask you on this show, and it's a lot of fun. We're never sitting on our hands here at the Montana Department of Justice. We've got a lot of stuff going on. One of the big federal lawsuits that we're teeing up, and it's in the investigation stages right now, but we're investigating the American Academy of Pediatrics for, frankly, misleading Americans, but specifically Montanans, about the effects of puberty blockers. And this is a controversial topic. He's talking about gender dysphoria, but the American Academy of Pediatrics would have you believe that by taking these puberty blockers, it's no big deal. It's completely reversible. There's no long-term effects. And frankly, the science is just not there. The science clearly shows us this is harmful, very harmful to young people. They're not just simple reversible drugs. So we've launched an investigation into that. I would say stay tuned. With that one's probably going to get us some attention.
You got it.
So that's a big one.
And with that, we are completely out of time. Austin, it's always a pleasure and an honor having you. Thank you for your call.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Have a great weekend. All right, so Mr. Nick, as we look forward to Monday, what's happening, sir?
I'll be gone, but we will have the KGVO book club for an extended time. It'll be a full 2 hours with Mirdad and Michael. The President's Man is the book.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. So get out there and make it a great day. And all together now, go Grizz! Got a big game coming up tomorrow, a big must-win situation. So let's all get out to the stadium and cheer our lungs out. Have a great weekend, everybody.